I spent $25,000 on a Christmas family vacation to Miami, dreaming of happy moments with my loved ones. But at the airport, my son said, "I forgot to buy you a ticket. Just go home." They had planned to leave me behind like trash from the very beginning. The next day, I had 27 missed calls from them, their voices panicked and desperate, because they had no idea what was coming for them. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. My name is Margaret Lewis. I'm 75 years old. I spent $25,000 so my family could have one last big Christmas vacation together in Miami. But at the airport, my son David looked me straight in the eye and said, "I forgot to buy you a ticket. Just go home." That's when I realized they never intended to take me along. Let me tell you who I am and how I got to that terrible moment at the airport. I live in a small house in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's the house where my husband George and I raised our son David. George died 5 years ago from a heart attack. One day he was working in our garden, planting tomatoes, and the next day he was gone. George was the one who kept our family close. Every Sunday, he would call David and make sure he brought Laura and the kids over for dinner. We would sit around our kitchen table, and George would tell jokes that made the grandkids laugh so hard they would get hiccups. But after George died, things changed. David is my only child. He's 45 years old now, a successful lawyer who lives in a big house in Princeton, about 30 minutes from me. He's tall like his father was, but he's gotten heavier over the years. His hair is turning gray at the sides, and sometimes when I look at him, I can see George's eyes looking back at me. But David isn't like his father. George was kind and patient. David gets annoyed easily, especially with me. He acts like spending time with his old mother is a chore he has to do. His wife Laura is 42 years old. She works at a bank and always dresses nice, with her blonde hair perfect and her makeup just right. When David first brought her home 20 years ago, she called me Mom and brought me flowers. She would ask me for my recipes and want to know stories about David when he was little. But over the years, Laura changed. Now she just calls me Margaret in a cold voice. She looks at me like I'm bothering her, even when I'm trying to help. I think she sees me as a burden that she has to deal with. Then there are my grandchildren. Emily is 14 now, almost as tall as me, with long brown hair and braces on her teeth. She used to love staying overnight at my house. We would bake cookies and watch old movies together. But now she's always on her phone, barely talking to me when they visit. Noah is 11 years old, with freckles and green eyes like David's. He still hugs me when he sees me, but I can tell his parents don't like it. Laura will say things like, "Noah, don't bother Grandma. She's tired." I'm not tired. I'm lonely. Since George died, I've tried so hard to keep our family traditions alive. Every Christmas, I would cook a big dinner. Every birthday, I would make homemade cakes. When David and Laura needed help with house payments or car repairs, I would write them a check. When they couldn't find babysitters, I would watch Emily and Noah. I thought if I kept giving, kept helping, kept trying, they would love me the way George loved me. Christmas was always the most special time for our family. George would put up lights on our house that could be seen from 3 blocks away. He would dress up like Santa for Emily and Noah when they were little. We would all go to church together on Christmas Eve and then come home to open one present each before bed. This year, I wanted to do something extra special. Maybe it was because I'm getting older and I don't know how many more Christmases I have left. My knees hurt when I walk upstairs. Sometimes I forget where I put things. I see other ladies my age getting sick, and I know my time is coming someday. I wanted to give my family one last big Christmas gift. Something they would remember forever. That's when I got the idea for Miami. I started planning the trip in September. I spent hours on the computer, looking at hotels and flights. I found the perfect place, the Fontainebleau Hotel right on Miami Beach. It had a huge swimming pool, palm trees, and the ocean right outside the door. I could picture it all. Emily and Noah playing in the warm sand while I watched from a beach chair. David and I talking like we used to when he was young. Laura maybe smiling at me for once. All of us eating dinner together as the sun set over the water. I booked 5 rooms for 5 days and 4 nights. December 23rd to December 27th. I wanted to be back home by New Year's Eve. The rooms cost $500 a night each. That's $10,000 just for the rooms. Then I paid for the airplane tickets, $800 each for 5 people. That's $4,000 more. I booked us dinners at fancy restaurants, a boat trip to see dolphins, and even tickets to a Christmas show. Altogether, I spent $25,000. That's more money than some people make in a whole year. It was most of my savings, but I didn't care. George had left me some money when he died, and I had been careful with it for 5 years. This felt like the right way to use it. I bought new clothes for everyone. A beautiful red dress for Emily to wear to dinner. Swim trunks with sharks on them for Noah because he loves sea animals. I even bought Laura a nice cover-up for the beach, hoping maybe she would say thank you. For myself, I bought a new swimsuit. Yes, at 75 years old, I was going to swim in the ocean. I also bought a red Christmas sweater with silver bells that jingle when I walk. But as I was planning all of this, I started to notice things. When I called David to talk about the trip, he sounded annoyed. "Yeah, Mom, whatever you want," he would say, like he wasn't really listening. Laura never seemed excited. When I showed her pictures of the hotel, she just nodded and went back to looking at her phone. The kids were happy about going to Florida, but their parents would give them looks when they got too excited around me. I should have seen the signs. Deep down, maybe I did see them. But I didn't want to believe that my own family could be so cruel. I kept telling myself that once we got to Miami, everything would be different. The warm weather and beautiful beach would bring us together. We would be a real family again, like when George was alive. I was so wrong. The night before our flight, I couldn't sleep. I kept getting up to check my suitcase, making sure I had everything packed. I had printed out all our boarding passes and put them in a folder with our hotel information. I had packed snacks for the plane and magazines for the kids. I was so excited. I felt like a little girl on Christmas morning. I had no idea that my family had been planning to betray me all along. December 23rd, 2024. The day that changed everything. I woke up at 5 a.m., too excited to sleep. Our flight was at 11:30 a.m., and I wanted to make sure everything was perfect. I took a shower, put on my favorite blue sweater, and ate a small breakfast. My stomach was full of butterflies. At 7 a.m., I drove to David's house in Princeton. It was a cold morning, and there was frost on my windshield. But I didn't care about the cold. In a few hours, we would be in warm, sunny Florida. When I pulled into David's driveway, he was already loading suitcases into his black SUV. I could see Emily and Noah through the front window, eating breakfast at the kitchen table. Laura was rushing around, grabbing last-minute items. "Good morning," I called out cheerfully, getting out of my car with my own suitcase. "Are you ready for our big adventure?" David barely looked at me. "Yeah, Mom. Just give us a few more minutes." Something felt off, but I pushed the feeling away. Maybe he was just stressed about traveling. Laura came out of the house carrying a large beach bag. She was wearing expensive sunglasses even though it was still early and cloudy outside. "Hi, Margaret," she said in that cold voice she always uses with me now. "Hi, dear," I replied, trying to sound warm. "Isn't this exciting? The kids must be so happy." Laura just shrugged and put her bag in the car. Emily and Noah came running out of the house next. Emily had her phone in one hand and a travel pillow in the other. Noah was carrying a backpack stuffed with toys and books. "Grandma," Noah shouted, running up to hug me. "Is it really going to be 80 degrees in Miami?" "Yes, sweetheart." I hugged him tight. "We're going to swim in the ocean and build sandcastles." "Can we really see dolphins?" Emily asked, though she was looking at her phone while she talked to me. "Absolutely. I booked us a special boat trip just for that," I said proudly. But again, I noticed David and Laura exchange that strange look. The same look I had been seeing for weeks whenever I talked about the trip. We all loaded into David's SUV. I sat in the back between Emily and Noah, just like when they were little. The drive to Newark Airport takes about an hour, and I spent the time showing the kids pictures of our hotel that I had printed from the internet. "Look at this pool," I said, pointing to a photo. "It's shaped like a kidney bean, and it has a waterfall." "Cool," Noah said. "Can we go swimming as soon as we get there?" "We'll see, buddy," David said from the front seat. His voice sounded strange. Tight. Laura was texting on her phone and didn't join our conversation at all. As we got closer to the airport, I started feeling more excited. I pulled out my folder with all our boarding passes, hotel confirmations, and restaurant reservations. Everything was organized perfectly, just the way George taught me to do when we traveled. "Okay, everyone," I announced as we pulled into the airport parking garage. "Our flight is American Airlines Flight 1247, departing at 11:30 a.m. We need to check in at Terminal A, then go to Gate B12. We parked and got all our suitcases out of the car. The airport was busy with people going on Christmas vacations. Families were everywhere, pulling luggage and carrying wrapped presents. Everyone looked happy and excited. I felt so proud walking with my family. Here I was, 75 years old, taking my children and grandchildren on a luxury vacation to Miami. I imagined other people looking at us and thinking what a nice grandmother I must be. We walked through the automatic doors into the terminal. The airport was decorated for Christmas with huge red boughs and sparkling lights. Christmas music was playing over the speakers. "This is it," I said, pulling out our boarding passes. "Our gate is this way." But then David stopped walking. He set his suitcase down right there in the middle of the busy terminal, with people walking around us in all directions. "Mom," he said, and his voice made my heart start beating faster. "We need to talk." Emily and Noah were standing nearby, looking confused. Laura was still on her phone, but I could see her watching us out of the corner of her eye. "What do we need to talk about, honey?" I asked, though something deep in my stomach was starting to feel wrong. David couldn't look at me. He stared down at the floor, then up at the ceiling, then at the people walking by. Anywhere except at my face. "It's about your ticket, Mom." I felt like the floor was moving under my feet. "What about my ticket? I have it right here." I started to open my folder with shaking hands. "No, Mom." David finally looked at me, but his eyes were cold. Not like my son's eyes at all. "I forgot to buy you a ticket. You can't come with us. You should just go home." The words hit me like a punch in the stomach. All around us, families were laughing and hugging, starting their Christmas vacations. But I felt like I was drowning. "What do you mean you forgot?" I whispered. "We planned this months ago. I paid for everything. The hotel, the flights, the restaurants." "It was just a mistake, Mom," David said, but he still wouldn't look me in the eyes. "These things happen." That's when Laura finally put down her phone and looked at me. She had this smile on her face. Not a nice smile. A mean smile, like she was enjoying watching me hurt. "It's probably better this way, Margaret," she said sweetly. "Traveling can be so tiring at your age. You'll be more comfortable at home." The way she said your age made it sound like a dirty word. That's when I knew for sure. This wasn't a mistake. They had planned this. They had never intended for me to come on this trip that I had paid for with my own money. People were starting to stare at us. A family with 3 little kids walked around us, the mother giving me a concerned look. An elderly man in a wheelchair was watching us with sad eyes, like he understood what was happening. "But," I started to say, then stopped. What could I say? That I had spent $25,000 of my own money? That I had been planning this for months? That I just wanted to spend Christmas with my family? Emily looked confused and upset. "Dad, what's happening? Why can't Grandma come with us?" "There was just a mix-up with the tickets, sweetie," David said quickly. "Grandma will stay home and we'll call her from Miami." Noah tugged on my coat sleeve. His green eyes were full of tears. "But Grandma, you promised we would look for seashells together. And you said we could build the biggest sandcastle in the world." I knelt down so I was at Noah's eye level. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold onto his shoulders. "I know, baby," I whispered. "Sometimes grown-up things get complicated. But you have fun in Florida, okay? Build that sandcastle for me." Tears were running down my cheeks now. I couldn't stop them. I stood up slowly. Every bone in my body hurt. Not just from being old, but from being broken inside. "Have a safe trip," I said to David and Laura. My voice sounded like it was coming from far away. David looked uncomfortable now. Maybe he could see how much he was hurting me. But he didn't change his mind. He didn't say he was sorry. He didn't say it was all a big mistake and of course I should come. Instead, he said, "We'll call you when we get to the hotel, Mom." Like that would make everything okay. I turned around and started walking back toward the parking garage. Each step felt like I was walking through deep water. My rolling suitcase bumped along behind me, making a sound like a broken heart. Behind me, I could hear David telling the kids to come on. They needed to get to their gate. I could hear Laura's high-heeled shoes clicking on the floor as they walked away from me. Nobody came after me. Nobody said they changed their mind. Nobody said they were sorry. I walked through that busy airport alone, past all the happy families starting their Christmas vacations, past the Christmas decorations and the cheerful music, past everything that was supposed to be joyful. The walk back to my car felt like it took forever. When I finally got there, I sat in the driver's seat and cried until I couldn't cry anymore. Through the windshield, I could see planes taking off into the sky. One of them was probably carrying my family to Miami, to the hotel I had booked, to the vacation I had paid for, to the Christmas I had dreamed about. But they didn't want me there. I drove home to my empty house in Cherry Hill. Everything looked the same. My Christmas tree with the lights twinkling, the stockings hung by the fireplace, the cookies I had baked for our trip sitting on the kitchen counter. But nothing would ever be the same again. I sat in my car in that airport parking lot for a long time. I watched other families walking by with their suitcases, all excited about their Christmas trips. I watched planes taking off through my windshield, knowing one of them was carrying the people who had just thrown me away like garbage. My hands were still shaking. My heart felt like it had been ripped out of my chest. But slowly, the tears stopped coming. I started my car and drove home. The drive felt like a bad dream. Everything looked normal. The same roads, the same houses, the same Christmas decorations in people's yards. But I felt like a different person than the one who had driven to the airport that morning full of hope and excitement. When I got home, I parked in my driveway and just sat there for a while. My house looked so small and quiet. The Christmas lights George had put up before he died were still twinkling, but they didn't make me feel happy anymore. I dragged my suitcase up the front steps and into my living room. Then I did something I had never done before in all my 75 years. I left that suitcase sitting right there in the middle of the room and went to bed with all my clothes still on. I didn't eat dinner. I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't even turn off the Christmas tree lights. I just lay on top of my bed and stared at the ceiling until it got dark outside. That night was the longest night of my life. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw David's face when he told me I couldn't come. I heard Laura's mean voice saying I was too old to travel. I felt the shame of walking through that airport alone while people stared at me. I thought about all the money I had spent. $25,000. Money George had left me to take care of myself in my old age. Money I had saved by eating cheaper food and turning down the heat in winter. Money I had given away to people who didn't even want me around. But the money wasn't really what hurt. It was knowing that my own son, the baby I had held when he was born, the little boy I had read bedtime stories to, the young man I had been so proud of when he became a lawyer, could look me in the eye and abandon me. When morning came, I felt different. The sadness was still there, but underneath it was something else. Something harder and stronger. Anger. Not just anger at David and Laura, but anger at myself. For years, I had been giving and giving and giving, trying to buy their love. Paying for things they should have paid for themselves. Taking care of problems they should have solved on their own. Always saying yes when they asked for help, even when it meant I had to do without things I needed. George wouldn't have wanted this for me. George would have been furious if he knew how they were treating me. I got up, took a shower, and put on clean clothes. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I called Bruce Miller. Bruce has been my lawyer since George died. He helped me with all the paperwork when George passed away. He's a good man, about David's age, with kind eyes and a gentle way of talking. But Bruce is also tough when he needs to be. That's exactly what I needed now. Margaret. Bruce sounded surprised to hear from me so early. It was only 8 a.m. Is everything okay? No, Bruce, I said, and my voice was steadier than it had been in years. Everything is not okay. I need your help. My family has hurt me badly, and I need to protect myself. What happened? Bruce asked. I could hear the concern in his voice. I told him everything. About planning the Miami trip for months. About spending $25,000 of my own money. About being so excited to make memories with my grandchildren. About David looking me in the eye at the airport and telling me I couldn't come. About Laura's cruel smile. About walking through that airport alone while strangers watched. When I finished talking, Bruce was quiet for a long moment. Margaret, he finally said, and his voice was different now. Harder. You've given them enough. Now it's time to take care of yourself. What can I do? I asked. They're probably at the hotel right now, swimming in the pool I paid for. We can do several things, Bruce said. But first, let me ask you, who paid for the hotel reservation? I did. I used my credit card. Good. And the flights? I paid for those too. Everything. The hotel, the flights, the restaurants, even the dolphin boat trip. Perfect, Bruce said, and I could hear him typing on his computer. Margaret, I want you to come to my office this morning. Bring all the receipts and confirmation numbers you have. We're going to fix this. I felt a spark of hope for the first time since yesterday. What are you going to do? I'm going to help you take back what's yours, Bruce said firmly. If they want to abandon you, then they can pay for their own vacation. 2 hours later, I was sitting in Bruce's office with all my papers spread out on his desk. Bank statements showing the $25,000 I had spent. Hotel confirmations. Flight receipts. Restaurant reservations. Everything organized in neat piles, just the way George had taught me. Bruce looked through everything carefully. Then he picked up his phone. Who are you calling? I asked. The Fontainebleau Hotel, he said with a smile that reminded me of George when he was planning a surprise. We're going to cancel their reservation. My heart started beating faster. Can we do that? Margaret, you paid for it with your credit card. Your name is on the reservation. You can absolutely cancel it. I listened as Bruce talked to someone at the hotel. He was very polite but very firm. He explained that there had been a family emergency and that Mrs. Lewis needed to cancel her reservation immediately. Yes, all 5 rooms, Bruce said into the phone. And please make sure to refund the full amount to Mrs. Lewis's credit card. This is a complete cancellation. When he hung up, Bruce was smiling. It's done. Their reservation has been cancelled. The hotel will put the money back on your credit card within 24 hours. I felt like I could breathe again for the first time since yesterday. But Bruce, I said, what about the plane tickets? They are probably already in Miami by now. Let me make another call, Bruce said. He called American Airlines next. This call took longer, but Bruce was patient. He explained that I had bought tickets for my family, but due to a family emergency, I needed to cancel and get refunds where possible. I see, Bruce said, writing notes on a pad. Yes, I understand there are fees. What about travel insurance? I see. Okay, please process whatever refunds you can give us. When he hung up, Bruce looked at me. The airline can't refund the full amount since they already flew, but they are giving us back about $2,000 because of the travel insurance you bought. Every little bit helps. I was starting to feel something I hadn't felt in years. Power. Control over my own life. What about the other things? I asked. The restaurants. The dolphin trip. Bruce was already dialing again. Let's find out. For the next hour, we called every place I had made reservations. Some could give me full refunds. Others could only give partial refunds. But by the time we were finished, Bruce had gotten back almost $20,000 of my $25,000. Now, Bruce said, leaning back in his chair, let's talk about your other accounts. What do you mean? Margaret, over the years, you've helped David and Laura with money, right? House payments, car repairs, things like that. I nodded. Many times. Do you have any joint accounts with them? Any credit cards or bank accounts where they can access your money? I thought about it. David is on my checking account. I added him a few years ago in case something happened to me and he needed to pay my bills. Bruce wrote this down. We're going to change that today. We're going to open you a new checking account that only you can access. And we're going to move all your money into it. Can we do that? It's your money, Margaret. You can do whatever you want with it. By lunchtime, we had moved all my money into a new account at a different bank. An account that David and Laura knew nothing about. An account they couldn't touch. As Bruce walked me to my car, he put his hand on my shoulder. Margaret, he said gently, I have to ask you something. Are you sure you want to do this? Once word gets out that you've cancelled their vacation and moved your money, there's going to be a lot of drama. I thought about David's cold eyes at the airport. I thought about Laura's cruel smile. I thought about all the years I had given and given and given, trying to buy love that was never for sale. Bruce, I said, standing up straighter than I had in years. They made their choice yesterday. Now I'm making mine. When I got home, I felt like a different person. The house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt peaceful. I unpacked my suitcase and put my new clothes away in my closet. Someday, I might wear them on a vacation. A vacation with people who actually wanted me there. I made myself a cup of tea and sat at my kitchen table. Outside my window, I could see Mrs. Henderson next door taking down her Christmas lights. Life was going on, just like it always did. My phone was sitting on the table next to me, turned off. I knew that sooner or later, it was going to ring. David and Laura were probably at the Miami airport right now, trying to check into a hotel that no longer had their reservation. But I wasn't ready to answer their calls yet. For the first time in 5 years, I was going to do what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it. I turned on the TV and watched a cooking show. Then I read a book. Then I took a nap in my favorite chair. It was the most peaceful day I'd had since George died. Around dinner time, I decided it was time. I turned my phone back on. Immediately, it started buzzing with missed call notifications. 27 missed calls. Dozens of text messages. The first voicemail was from David, and his voice was angry. "Mom, what the hell did you do? They are saying our hotel reservation is cancelled. Call me back right now." The second voicemail was also from David, but now he sounded panicked. "Mom, please call me back. We're stuck at the airport. The hotel says you cancelled everything. I don't understand what's happening." The third voicemail was from Laura, and her voice was shaking. "Margaret, I don't know what game you're playing, but you need to fix this right now. We have children with us." I listened to all 27 messages. David angry, then desperate. Laura begging, then threatening. Even little Emily had left a message, crying and asking why their vacation was ruined. But the message that broke my heart was from Noah. "Grandma," his sweet little voice said through my phone. "Mommy and Daddy are really upset and Emily is crying. Did we do something wrong? I just want to come home and hug you." I sat at my kitchen table and cried again. But these tears were different. They weren't tears of shame or heartbreak. They were tears of grief for the family I thought I had, and tears of relief for finally standing up for myself. Tomorrow, I would have to decide how to respond to all these messages. Tomorrow, I would have to figure out what came next. But tonight, I was going to make myself dinner, watch some Christmas movies, and sleep in my own bed in my own house that nobody could take away from me. For the first time in 5 years, I was free. While I was sitting peacefully in my kitchen in New Jersey, drinking tea and finally feeling in control of my life, chaos was breaking out 1,200 miles away in Miami. I found out later what happened from the voicemails David left, and from a story that Emily posted on her social media before Laura made her delete it. Let me tell you exactly how their perfect vacation fell apart. David, Laura, Emily, and Noah landed at Miami International Airport at 2:30 p.m. on December 23rd. The plane ride had been bumpy, and Laura was already in a bad mood because Noah had spilled juice on her white pants. But they were still excited. Emily was taking pictures through the airplane window of the palm trees and blue water. Noah was pressing his face against the glass, looking for dolphins in the ocean below. "I can't wait to jump in that pool," Noah said as they got off the plane. "Remember, we have dinner reservations at 7 p.m., David told everyone as they walked through the airport. "Mom booked us at some fancy seafood place." Laura was already planning their week. "Tomorrow we'll lay on the beach all day. Emily, you can work on your tan. And I want to go shopping in South Beach." They took a taxi from the airport to the Fontainebleau Hotel. The taxi driver was friendly, asking if it was their first time in Miami. Emily and Noah chatted about all the things they wanted to do: swim with dolphins, build sandcastles, maybe try jet skiing. When the taxi pulled up to the hotel, even David was impressed. The Fontainebleau is one of the most famous hotels in Miami Beach. It's huge and white and glamorous, with fancy cars parked out front and people in expensive clothes walking in and out. "Wow," Emily said, taking more pictures. "Grandma really picked an amazing place." For just a moment, David felt a little guilty about leaving me behind. The hotel was exactly the kind of place I would have loved, elegant and classy, with beautiful decorations and friendly staff. But Laura squeezed his arm and whispered, "See? We're having a much better time without her slowing us down." They walked into the huge lobby with their suitcases. The ceiling was incredibly high, with sparkling chandeliers hanging down. There were Christmas decorations everywhere, a giant tree covered in gold ornaments, garlands wrapped around marble columns, and soft Christmas music playing. Other families were checking in, everyone looking happy and relaxed. Kids were running around in flip-flops and shorts while their parents held tropical drinks. David walked up to the front desk with a big smile on his face. He felt important, like a successful man taking his family on an expensive vacation. "Good afternoon," he said to the desk clerk, a young woman with a friendly smile. "We're checking in. The reservation should be under Lewis, 5 rooms for 4 nights. The desk clerk typed on her computer, then frowned slightly. She typed some more, then looked up at David with a confused expression. "I'm sorry, sir. I'm not finding any reservation under Lewis. Could it be under a different name?" David's smile faded a little. "Try Margaret Lewis. That's my mother. She made the reservation." The clerk typed again, then her frown got deeper. "Oh, I do see something here. But sir, this reservation was cancelled earlier today. David felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. What do you mean cancelled? That's impossible. Behind him, Laura stepped forward. There must be some mistake. We just flew here from New Jersey for this reservation. The desk clerk looked sympathetic but firm. I'm very sorry, but the reservation was cancelled this morning at 10:15 a.m. The person who called said there was a family emergency. The full refund has already been processed back to the credit card. David's face was turning red. Other people in the lobby were starting to stare. Emily and Noah were looking confused and scared. This is ridiculous, David said, his voice getting louder. There's no family emergency. We need those rooms. Dad, what's happening? Emily asked quietly. Laura was frantically dialing her phone. I'm calling your mother right now. This has to be some kind of mistake. But my phone was still turned off. It went straight to voicemail. Sir, the desk clerk said gently. I understand this is frustrating, but I don't have any rooms available to offer you. We're completely booked for the Christmas holiday. Completely booked, David shouted, causing everyone in the lobby to turn and look. This is insane. We're supposed to stay here for 4 nights. A security guard started walking over. The desk clerk picked up her phone, probably calling her manager. Noah started crying. Daddy, why are you yelling? Where are we going to sleep? Laura tried calling me again, but it still went to voicemail. Margaret, pick up your phone right now, she said into the phone. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to fix this immediately. The hotel manager came out then, a well-dressed man who looked like he had dealt with upset guests before. But even he couldn't help them. I'm very sorry, the manager said calmly. But the reservation was properly cancelled by the person whose credit card was used to make the booking. There's nothing I can do to reverse that. And unfortunately, we truly are sold out through New Year's. David was sweating now, even though the lobby was air-conditioned. This is my mother we're talking about. She's 75 years old. She probably got confused and cancelled by accident. Even if that were the case, the manager said, I don't have any rooms to give you. I can recommend some other hotels, but I have to warn you, most places are fully booked for the holidays. Laura was on the phone again, leaving another angry message. Margaret, I don't know what game you're playing, but you have ruined Christmas for your own grandchildren. How could you do this to Emily and Noah? Emily was crying now too. Not because she understood what was happening, but because her parents were so upset and yelling. Noah was holding onto David's leg, scared by all the commotion. For the next 2 hours, David and Laura tried everything. They called every hotel in Miami Beach. All booked. They tried hotels further away from the beach. Still no rooms. They even tried calling vacation rental companies, but everything nice was taken. Finally, they found 2 rooms at a cheap motel about 30 minutes from the beach. It was the kind of place with thin walls, stained carpets, and a pool that looked like it hadn't been cleaned in months. This is a nightmare, Laura said as they stood in the cramped motel room that smelled like cigarettes. We went from a 5-star resort to this dump. David kept trying to call me, getting more and more angry each time it went to voicemail. Mom, what the hell did you do? He said into the phone. They are saying our hotel reservation is cancelled. Call me back right now. But I didn't call back. I was at home, having turned my phone off, enjoying the most peaceful afternoon I'd had in years. By evening, David had left me 12 voicemails. His voice changed from angry to confused to desperate as the day went on. Mom, please call me back. We're stuck at the airport. The hotel says you cancelled everything. I don't understand what's happening. Then Laura took the phone. Margaret, I don't know what game you're playing, but you need to fix this right now. We have children with us. But the worst part came when they tried to go to dinner. I had made reservations at Joe's Stone Crab, one of the most famous restaurants in Miami Beach. David was looking forward to it. He had been bragging to his friends about eating at such an expensive place. When they showed up at the restaurant, the hostess smiled and asked for their name. Louis, David said. We should have a reservation for 5 people. The hostess checked her computer, then looked confused. I'm sorry, but that reservation was cancelled this afternoon. The person who called said there was a family emergency. David's face went white. Cancelled? Everything is cancelled. Emily started crying again. Dad, I'm hungry. Can't we just eat somewhere else? But everywhere they tried was fully booked for Christmas Eve. They ended up eating hamburgers at a fast food place near their cheap motel while Emily and Noah cried about their ruined vacation. That night, in their motel room with the broken air conditioner and the loud traffic outside, David made one more desperate phone call. "Mom," he said, and for the first time, his voice sounded like the little boy I used to tuck into bed. "Please, I don't understand what's happening. Why would you cancel our trip? Emily and Noah are so upset. Please call me back. We need to figure this out." But I was asleep in my own comfortable bed in New Jersey, getting the best night's sleep I'd had in years. The next morning, Christmas Eve, David's phone rang early. It was the boat company calling to confirm their dolphin watching trip. "I'm sorry," David said tiredly. "We need to cancel that." "Oh, that's already been taken care of, sir," the cheerful voice said. "Mrs. Lewis called yesterday and cancelled. She said there was a family emergency. We've already processed the full refund." David hung up and looked at Laura, who was sitting on the motel bed looking like she had been hit by a truck. "She cancelled everything," David said quietly. "Mom cancelled every single thing she paid for." For the first time since this whole mess started, Laura looked scared instead of angry. How did she even know how to do all that? Laura whispered. David thought about it. Bruce Miller, Mom's lawyer. She must have called Bruce. That's when they both realized the truth. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't confusion. This was revenge. And I was just getting started. By Christmas Eve morning, my phone showed 27 missed calls. 27 times my son and his wife had tried to reach me, their voices getting more and more panicked as their perfect vacation crumbled around them. But I sat at my kitchen table in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, sipping my morning coffee and feeling more powerful than I had felt in 5 years. For once in my life, I held all the cards. And I wasn't ready to play them yet. Christmas Eve afternoon, I finally decided it was time to listen to those voicemails. I made myself a cup of hot chocolate with marshmallows, something I used to do with Emily and Noah when they were younger, and sat down at my kitchen table with my phone. 27 missed calls. 43 text messages. I started with the first voicemail, from early that morning when they must have just arrived at the hotel. David's voice was angry and demanding. "Mom, what the hell did you do? They are saying our hotel reservation is cancelled. Call me back right now." I took a sip of my hot chocolate and went to the next message. "Mom, please call me back. We're stuck at the airport. The hotel says you cancelled everything. I don't understand what's happening." His voice was different now. Not angry anymore, but confused and starting to panic. The third message was from Laura. "Margaret, I don't know what game you're playing, but you need to fix this right now. We have children with us." I noticed she called me Margaret, not Mom. Even when she needed my help, she couldn't bring herself to treat me like family. As I listened to more messages, I could hear the situation getting worse for them. David's voice getting more desperate. Laura starting to sound scared instead of just angry. In the background of one message, I could hear Noah crying and asking why they couldn't go swimming. Message number 15 broke my heart. It was Emily, and she sounded so confused and upset. "Grandma, I don't understand what's happening. Daddy is really angry and Mommy keeps yelling on the phone. Are you okay? Did something bad happen to you? Please call us back." Sweet Emily. She was the only one who seemed worried about me instead of just angry that their vacation was ruined. But the message that made me cry was number 22, from my little Noah. "Grandma," his small voice said, and I could tell he had been crying. "Mommy and Daddy are really upset and Emily is crying. Did we do something wrong? This hotel is yucky and it smells funny. I just want to come home and hug you. I miss you, Grandma. I love you." I had to pause the voicemails and get some tissues. Noah didn't understand what was happening. To him, we had all been excited about going to Florida together, and now suddenly his vacation was ruined and his grandmother wasn't there. The last few messages were David again, but his voice was completely different now. Not angry or demanding, just tired and defeated. "Mom, please, I don't understand what's happening. Why would you cancel our trip? Emily and Noah are so upset. Please call me back. We need to figure this out." And the final message, left very late that night. "Mom, I know you're angry about something. I don't know what I did wrong, but please, can we talk? The kids are asking questions I don't know how to answer." After I finished listening to all the voicemails, I sat quietly for a long time, thinking about everything that had brought us to this point. I thought about David as a little boy, how he used to run to me when he skinned his knee or had a bad dream. I remembered teaching him to ride his bike, helping him with his homework, being so proud when he graduated from law school. I thought about Emily as a baby, how she used to fall asleep in my arms while I sang her lullabies. I remembered teaching her to bake cookies, reading her bedtime stories, watching her learn to walk. I thought about Noah, always so sweet and loving, the way he would hug me so tight and tell me I was the best grandma in the world. But then I thought about the past 5 years since George died. How David's visits became shorter and less frequent. How Laura started treating me like I was bothering them just by existing. How my offers to help were taken for granted. How my feelings were ignored. I thought about all the money I had given them over the years. When David needed help with his mortgage payment, $5,000. When Laura's car broke down, $3,000 for repairs. When Emily wanted to go to summer camp, $1,200. When Noah needed special tutoring, $800. Every time, I was happy to help. That's what family does, right? That's what George would have wanted me to do. But somewhere along the way, my help stopped being appreciated. It became expected. And I stopped being their mother and grandmother. I became their personal bank account. When was the last time David called me just to see how I was doing? When was the last time Laura asked about my health or my feelings? When was the last time any of them seemed happy to see me, instead of acting like spending time with me was a chore? The truth was painful, but I finally saw it clearly. They didn't love me anymore. They loved what I could give them. And when they decided I was too much trouble to take on their vacation, the vacation I had paid for, they showed me exactly how much I meant to them. Nothing. I picked up my phone and looked at the text messages. Most of them were from David and Laura, saying things like call US now and fix this mess and what is wrong with you. But there were 3 messages from Emily that made my heart ache. Grandma, are you okay? We're worried about you. Please call us back. I don't understand why you're not answering. I love you, Grandma. Even if vacation is ruined, I just want to know you're safe. Emily was only 14, but she was the only one who seemed to care about my feelings instead of just being angry that their plans were ruined. There was also one text from Noah that Laura must have helped him send. Grandma, I miss you. When can I see you again? These children loved me, but they were learning from their parents that I didn't matter, that my feelings weren't important, that I was just there to give them things and then disappear when they didn't need me. I couldn't let that continue. That evening, as I was making myself dinner, my phone rang again. It was David. I stared at the phone for a long moment, then decided to answer. Hello, David. Mom. His voice was full of relief. Finally. I've been calling you all day. What happened? Why did you cancel everything? I sat down at my kitchen table and took a deep breath. I canceled everything because you told me I couldn't come. What? Mom, that was just a mistake with the tickets. I told you we'd figure it out. David, I said quietly. Do you think I'm stupid? There was a long pause. What do you mean? Do you think I'm too old and confused to understand what really happened at that airport? Another pause. Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. You never forgot to buy my ticket, David. You never planned to take me on this trip at all. You and Laura decided I would be a burden, so you planned to leave me behind from the very beginning. Silence. Mom, that's not. I mean. Don't lie to me anymore, David. I saw Laura's face at the airport. I saw how she smiled when you told me to go home. This wasn't a mistake. This was cruel and planned. I could hear David breathing hard on the other end of the phone. But Mom, you can't just cancel everything. We're stuck in this terrible motel. The kids are upset. The kids are upset because their parents taught them that their grandmother doesn't matter. That it's okay to throw away someone who loves them. That's not fair, Mom. We do love you. No, David. You love my money. There's a difference. I could hear Laura talking in the background, telling David to make me fix everything. Mom, please, David said, and now he sounded like he was begging. Can you please call the hotel and get our rooms back? Please. Emily and Noah don't deserve this. You're right, I said. Emily and Noah don't deserve this. They don't deserve to learn that it's okay to treat people badly. They don't deserve to grow up thinking that family members are disposable. So you'll fix it? No, David. I won't. There was a shocked silence. What do you mean you won't? I mean that you made your choice at the airport yesterday. You chose to abandon me. Now you can live with the consequences. But Mom, we're family. Are we, David? Because family doesn't leave family members standing alone in airports. Family doesn't take someone's money and then tell them they are not wanted. I could hear Laura grabbing the phone away from David. Margaret. Laura's voice was sharp and angry. This is ridiculous. You're punishing innocent children because your feelings got hurt. My feelings got hurt, I repeated quietly. Laura, you looked me in the eye yesterday and smiled while your husband told me I was too old and tired to go on the vacation I paid for. That wasn't hurt feelings. That was cruelty. You're being dramatic, Margaret. We just thought you'd be more comfortable at home. Then you should have asked me what I wanted instead of making the decision for me. And you certainly shouldn't have taken my money to pay for a trip you never intended to include me on. Well, what are we supposed to do now? We can't afford to pay for this ourselves. And there it was. The truth. They couldn't afford the vacation they felt entitled to take without me. That sounds like your problem, Laura. Not mine. You can't do this to us. I can do whatever I want with my own money. You made that very clear yesterday. Laura hung up on me. I finished my dinner in peace, then spent the evening looking through old photo albums. Pictures of David as a baby, as a little boy, as a young man. Pictures of Emily and Noah when they were smaller and used to love spending time with me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was sad, but I was also free. For the first time in 5 years, I had stood up for myself. I had refused to let people treat me badly just because they were related to me. It hurt, but it also felt right. George would have been proud of me. The phone kept ringing that evening, but I didn't answer it. I had said everything I needed to say. Tomorrow was Christmas Day, and for the first time since George died, I was going to spend it exactly the way I wanted to. Christmas morning came quietly to my little house in Cherry Hill. No rushing around to cook a big dinner for people who didn't appreciate it. No wrapping last-minute gifts for family members who barely said thank you. Just me, my cup of coffee, and the peaceful silence of a house that belonged to me. I woke up naturally around 7 a.m., without an alarm clock. The sun was shining through my bedroom curtains, and I could hear birds singing outside. It was going to be a beautiful day. I put on my favorite robe, the soft blue one George gave me for our last Christmas together, and went to the kitchen to make coffee. As I waited for it to brew, I looked out my window at the snow that had fallen during the night. Everything looked clean and fresh and new. My phone was sitting on the counter, turned off. I had turned it off last night after the conversation with David and Laura, and I wasn't ready to turn it back on yet. Today was going to be about peace, not drama. I made myself breakfast, scrambled eggs with cheese, wheat toast with strawberry jam, and fresh orange juice. I took my time eating, reading the newspaper, and doing the crossword puzzle. No one was rushing me. No one needed anything from me. It was wonderful. Around 10 a.m., there was a knock at my front door. For a moment, my heart jumped. Had David and Laura cut their trip short and come home to yell at me in person? But when I looked through the window, I saw Helen Martinez, my next-door neighbor. Helen is about my age, 73, and she's been widowed for 3 years. We've been friendly neighbors for a long time, but we've grown closer since both our husbands died. Margaret, Helen called through the door. Are you okay, honey? I saw you were home and I wanted to check on you. I opened the door and smiled at her. Helen was dressed in a pretty red sweater and black pants, clearly ready for Christmas celebrations. I'm fine, Helen. Just having a quiet Christmas morning. Helen looked concerned. But I thought you were going to Florida with David and the kids. Didn't your plane leave yesterday? I had told Helen about the Miami trip weeks ago, when I was so excited about it. Now I had to decide how much to tell her about what really happened. Plans changed, I said simply. Would you like some coffee? Helen came in and sat at my kitchen table while I poured her a cup. She looked around at my living room, which still had my Christmas tree up but none of the usual mess of wrapping paper and cooking preparations. Margaret, Helen said gently, what happened? You were so excited about this trip. Something about her kind voice made me start talking. Before I knew it, I had told her everything. About being left at the airport. About David and Laura's cruelty. About canceling their reservations and taking back control of my money. Helen listened without judging, just nodding and making sympathetic sounds. When I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Good for you, she said firmly. Good for me. Margaret, I've watched you for years, giving and giving to that family while they treated you like hired help. You deserve so much better than that. But they are my family, Helen. David is my only child. Emily and Noah are my only grandchildren. Honey, Helen said, her brown eyes serious, family isn't just about blood. Family is about love and respect and kindness. Real family doesn't abandon you in airports. Helen paused, then smiled. Actually, I came over here to ask you something. My daughter Maria is having Christmas dinner at her house today, and she told me to invite you. She said any friend of mine is family to her. I was surprised. But Helen, she doesn't even know me. She knows you're important to me, and that's enough. Maria has 5 kids, ages 6 to 16, and her husband Carlos is a wonderful cook. It's going to be loud and chaotic and fun. Nothing fancy, just a real family Christmas. I thought about it. I could stay home alone with my sad thoughts, or I could spend Christmas with people who actually wanted me there. Are you sure it would be okay? Margaret, Maria specifically asked me to invite you. She said the table is always big enough for one more person who needs a family. At 2 p.m., Helen and I walked across the street to Maria's house. I brought a pie I had baked that morning, apple cinnamon, made from George's mother's recipe. Maria met us at the door with a huge smile and a warm hug. She was about 45, with dark hair and laugh lines around her eyes. She reminded me of the person Laura used to be, before she became cold and bitter. Mrs. Lewis, I'm so happy you could join us. Mom has told me so many nice things about you. Inside, the house was everything Helen had promised, loud, chaotic, and full of love. Kids were running around playing with new toys. Carlos was in the kitchen, stirring something that smelled amazing. Maria's parents were there, along with her sister's family and a few neighbors. No one asked why I wasn't with my own family. No one made me feel like I was intruding. They just welcomed me like I belonged there. During dinner, I sat between Helen and Maria's youngest son, Diego, who was 6 years old. He told me all about his new dinosaur toys and asked if I wanted to see him build a castle with his blocks. Can you be my extra grandma today? Diego asked with a gap-toothed grin. I would love that, I said, and I meant it. As I looked around that table, at Maria and Carlos smiling at each other, at the kids laughing and telling jokes, at Helen looking happier than I'd seen her in months, I realized something important. This was what family was supposed to feel like. Warm, welcoming, joyful. No one was checking their phone or acting like they'd rather be somewhere else. No one was making mean comments or rolling their eyes. Everyone was just happy to be together. After dinner, we all sat in the living room while the kids showed off their Christmas presents. Maria's teenage daughter, Sophia, played guitar and sang Christmas songs. Little Diego insisted on showing me every single one of his new toys. Around 7 p.m., Helen and I walked back to our houses. The snow was starting to fall again, making everything look like a Christmas card. Thank you, I said to Helen as we stood between our driveways. That was the best Christmas I've had in years. Maria really liked you, Helen said. She asked if you'd like to come to Diego's birthday party next month. Back in my house, I finally turned my phone back on. There were 15 more missed calls and dozens of text messages. But I didn't feel the panic or guilt I used to feel when David and Laura were upset with me. I listened to one voicemail, from Emily. Grandma, I hope you're okay. I love you and I miss you. Merry Christmas. I saved that message and deleted all the others without listening to them. Then I called Bruce Miller, even though it was Christmas evening. Margaret. Bruce sounded concerned. Is everything all right? Everything is fine, Bruce. Better than fine, actually. But I need to ask you about something important. My will. What about it? I want to change it. I want to make sure that if something happens to me, David and Laura can't get their hands on my money to waste it or use it to hurt people. Bruce was quiet for a moment. What did you have in mind? I want most of my estate to go to charities. Maybe the children's hospital where Emily was born. Maybe the animal shelter where George and I used to volunteer. Places that actually help people instead of just taking from them. That sounds very reasonable, Margaret. What about Emily and Noah? I want to set up trust funds for them, but ones that David and Laura can't touch. Money for college, money for when they turn 25, but nothing their parents can use to control them or manipulate them. I can absolutely help you with that. We can set it up so the kids get the benefit, but only when they are old enough to make their own decisions. Good. And Bruce, I want to do this soon. This week, if possible. Of course. I'll draw up the papers and we can meet this week. After I hung up with Bruce, I sat in my living room looking at my Christmas tree. The lights were twinkling softly, and everything was quiet and peaceful. I thought about Diego asking if he could be my extra grandma today. I thought about Maria's warm hug and Carlos's delicious food. I thought about Helen's friendship and how good it felt to be welcomed somewhere instead of tolerated. 4 or 5 years after George died, I had been trying to hold on to a family that didn't want to be held. I had been chasing people who were running away from me, trying to buy love that wasn't for sale. But today, I had found something better. I had found people who valued me for who I was, not what I could give them. I had found peace with myself and the choices I had made. Family isn't about blood, I realized. It's about love, respect, and who stands by you when the world turns cold. That Christmas, I stopped chasing the people who left me behind, and I finally found peace with those who valued me. David and Laura spent the rest of their vacation in that cheap motel, probably learning for the first time what it felt like to pay for their own mistakes. Emily and Noah were probably confused and upset, but maybe, someday, they would understand that their grandmother loved them enough to refuse to let their parents treat her badly. And me. I spent the evening making plans. Plans to volunteer at the animal shelter again. Plans to take a cooking class with Helen. Plans to maybe take a real vacation somewhere warm, with people who actually wanted me there. For the first time in 5 years, I was excited about the future instead of sad about the past. The next morning, I woke up to a world covered in fresh snow and full of new possibilities. My phone was still getting angry messages from David and Laura, but I wasn't reading them anymore. I was too busy living my own life to worry about people who had chosen not to be part of it. And you know what? It felt wonderful. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones we love the most. But love without respect isn't really love at all. I learned that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, and sometimes the family that matters most is the one that chooses to love you back.